Welcome back to Better Backyard Farm. So I'm trying canning for the first time this year, and I've followed the instructions of my Blue Ball canning book very carefully. So now I am putting green beans into my jars, and forgive me if I don't look at you the whole time, and I'm leaving the appropriate 1-inch head space in there. And then I'm ladling, I'm doing what's called a raw pack. So you put the vegetables in raw, and then you ladle hot water over it, again leaving a 1-inch head space, which is to right about there. And then once I do this, I'm going to fill my pressure canner with 3 quarts of water, and then get it to the appropriate temperature, and then let it process. And since these are quarts, they're going to process for 25 minutes. So I'm probably going to be here for a while doing this, but I just wanted to show you the process of what to do, and you know, just how I'm doing it. I don't really want to give instructions because you should follow very specific instructions when it comes to canning. So this is one of the parts where once you put the hot water in, use a plastic spatula or whatever. I bought a little canning set, so it came with everything I needed. And you don't want to use metal, because metal can scratch the glass, and any kind of nicks could cause the jar to either break or for it not to seal properly. So I'm just kind of poking down, and as I'm doing this, I can see little air bubbles coming up that are trapped kind of in between the green beans. So I'm just doing that until I don't see any more air bubbles. And then I'm taking my little magnetized handle here, and per their instructions, I've kept the lids in a simmering pot of water, not boiling, but simmering. And that goes on top. And then I just kind of wipe with a clean washcloth. Then I take one of the lids and screw it down just finger tight, not over tight. And that's how I'm going to process. And these are all jars that have hot water in them, because you're supposed to raw pack the beans into hot water or into hot jars. So I couldn't get them to sit in the water, so I put a little bit of hot water in each one, and then when I go to pack my beans, I just pour it out into a different pot, and then I put my funnel on. And I have all these beans that I cut up and had sitting in this ice water to keep them fresh and to keep them from spoiling. And this is how I'm doing it. And if you want to can, this is my first time canning ever, and I'm a little nervous, but I got the Blue Ball canning book, and it's very thorough with the instructions on what to do. So I read it several times, and I also had a friend, Bev, hi Bev, who gave me some great coaching advice. And between that and the book, here I am. So I'll be back a little later to show you how everything looks going into the canner, and then once it's done. So we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so this is part 2, and this is the scary part. I feel like I should be singing "Nearer My God to Thee" or something. Alright, so I put 5 quarts of beans in here, along with, I put the quarts in there first empty, and then I boiled 3 quarts of water and poured that in and closed it. And now what I have to do is wait for steam to start coming out of this valve. And once it has been coming out of that valve for 10 minutes, Then I put the pressure regulator on top of there. And then when this gets to 11 pounds of pressure, I adjust the heat so that it stays at 11 pounds of pressure. And then I let it process for 25 minutes. The 25-minute processing time does not begin until this reaches 11 pounds of pressure. So the 10 minutes waiting for it to steam does not count as part of the processing time. So I'm gonna watch this from a distance. And I'll be back in a little bit. I'll come back and show you the steam going up and then the pressure and all that. So it's gonna be several parts. So we'll be right back. Okay, you can't really see this really well, but I've got a nice flow of steam. There we go, see that? Nice flow of steam. So now I'm gonna lower my heat just a little bit and let this flow for 10 minutes. And then I'm gonna put the regulator valve on. And then that's when the pressure will start to build. So we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so I got scared because the pressure valve went up, and I was like, oh my gosh, the gauge isn't working and it's going to explode on me. But I was, you know, I've been reading through the instructions. So once this pops up, that means there's actually pressure in the canner. So now I'm just watching the gauge go up, and when it reaches 11 pounds of pressure, that is when I'm going to start the timer for 25 minutes. So yes, my heart is pounding because I was like, oh my goodness, it's going to explode. This is an adventure, and I'm sure, Bev, if you're watching this, you're probably just laughing at me. That's okay though. All right, be back in a little bit. Okay, you can see I've reached 11 pounds of pressure. I can't get in too close because this little refurbished camera I've got really stinks camera-wise. But I have 11 pounds of pressure, so I adjusted my heat setting so that it stays at 11 pounds, and I've got my timer set for 25 minutes. So I'm going to stay close to this kitchen because this is not something that I feel comfortable walking away from, because I do not want this thing to keep going up in pressure and explode. I'm sure there are professional canners that are probably laughing at me, but hey. So I'm going to stay here in the kitchen, and I've got some blueberries to freeze and some strawberries to freeze, so I'm going to do that. And maybe sing a verse or two of Nearer My God to Thee, because you all just don't know how nervous this is making me. Okay. So we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this off. And I'm also going to remove this from the burner because even though it's off, you know, the metal stays hot for a while. So you do not open it or anything. You don't take off the valve. You don't do anything until the pressure is completely gone. The gauge is completely down to 0, and this little thing here is completely down. So probably going to let it sit for, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes because I don't want to take any chances. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I have let this cool down. I went outside and let my chickens forage for a little while, so it's been a half an hour. You can see there's no pressure here, and this is down. So, important thing, I'm going to take this off now. There's no pressure. Is when you open it, even if you know that it's cool, the instructions say to always open towards you. That way, any steam, like you can see that steam there, any steam that's in there goes that way and not in your face. So, Boy, they smell good. So I have my jar lifters here that are from the kit that I bought. And you want to place your jars on a towel because the hot against the cool counter could cause the jar to break and it could also scar up your counter. So they recommend putting it on a cool towel. So I'm going to take my grabbers here. Actually, I got them the wrong way. And I'm just going to lift the jars out. I was able to get 5 in here, so I am going to be doing some canning for a while. Now, if you look, you can see that it's bubbling. You don't have to worry about that because everything that I read said that that is just the cooking process. Because I remember I went through and made sure that I got out all the air bubbles with my little stick here. So that is totally normal. That's just the cooking process and that will settle down. And then the way that you know these are done, you let these cool for about 12 to 24 hours. And the way that you'll know that these are done is when you press on that lid and it doesn't go in, that means it's done. You'll also probably hear a ping sound, which is the jar sealing. So if after 12 to 24 hours, if you press on that center and it still goes in, you don't have a proper seal. So you can read the ball canning guide to figure out what to do next because you can reprocess it or you can just go ahead and, you know, eat them because they're still good right now. But those are the tips. So like I said, definitely get the ball canning guide. That's what I've been following and reading. And so that's green beans. And I only have a ton more to go. Okay, garden gals and guys. So here it is. 2 days. And I found some, actually that was my cat's tail, sorry. I found some more quart jars that my brother had given me, a whole box of, 2 boxes of them. So I had enough quart jars to do all my beans. So there are 20 quart jars made from that bushel. There probably would have been about 23, but I gave a bunch of uncanned beans to my mother-in-law so that she could blanch them and freeze them. So that's it. We're all done. So next up in the canning world will be tomatoes when they finally come off the vines, when they're finally ready in the garden. So there it is, guys. I finished my first successful batch of canning and I'm so happy. And thanks to Bev at our Half Acre Homestead for all of your support. Smooches, everyone. Until next time, happy gardening.